He handed me the pen like it was nothing. Just a formality, Mom. Retirement home paperwork. You'll love the garden there. I signed. That was the last time I ever signed anything without reading. The next morning, my phone was gone. So was my planner and the spare keys. I'd lived in this house for 41 years, and I suddenly couldn't open my own back door. It's just until the facility tour, said Lorna, my daughter-in-law, setting down a tray of tea I didn't ask for. You tend to misplace things lately. We thought it'd be easier this way. We? Jack and I. We've been talking. A lot. I looked at her hands. Perfect nails, no warmth. My son had married her 12 years ago. I used to say she was modern. What I meant was I never felt safe speaking freely with her. Jack used to laugh when I said that. Used to. They'd come in the night before, arms full of brochures and smiles. You'll love it, Ma. These places are basically resorts now. They've got a hair salon, pickleball courts, even poetry nights. Jack still called me Ma when he wanted something. I didn't want pickleball. I wanted my own damn chair by the kitchen window, my crossword pile, my chipped mug from 1989. I wanted my life. The life I'd built alone after Walter died. It's just a tour, Jack had said. They won't even keep you if you don't like it. So why take my keys? The brochures were still spread out on the kitchen table, pages glossy with fake smiles, elderly women in matching cardigans, men playing chess in what looked like bank lobbies, all sterilized, staged. I sat down and opened the drawer where I kept my bills. Empty. Same with the folder where I stored medical receipts. I checked the cupboard above the fridge, my nobody ever goes there shelf. The envelope with my will, untouched. But my insurance file was missing. At 78, you don't panic easily. You catalog. You inventory what's real. So I made tea. Not the one Lorna brought. I poured it out. Something about her sweetness was bitter underneath. I sat in silence and remembered what Jack had said last week, almost offhand. You know, some of those memory tests would be good for you. Just baseline stuff. I'd laughed, but I wasn't laughing now. That afternoon, my granddaughter June called. She's 25, always rushing between classes and side jobs, but she never forgets me. You okay, Gran? She asked. Tell me something, sweetheart, I said. When's the last time someone called you confused? She was quiet. Then, who said that? No one yet, I said, but I think they're about to. They started calling it the transition, as if I were a file being transferred, not a person with a name and a history. We just want what's best for you, Jack said that evening, standing in my kitchen like it was already his. You've always taken care of others. Let us take care of you now. I watched him pour himself a drink from my cabinet. Bourbon, Walter's bottle, half gone. What's this place called again? I asked, feigning interest. Brookview. He said it like a magic word. Private, very selective. Lorna's cousin used to work there. I nodded slowly. And this cousin, did she quit or get fired? Jack paused. She moved. I'd taught high school English for 33 years. I could smell lies before they were fully formed. This one reeked of stale desperation. I walked to the hall closet, opened it, and stood still. My coat, the navy one with the hidden cash pocket, was missing. So was the small, rolling suitcase I kept ready, just in case. Gone. You didn't, I said without turning around. Ma, you said yourself you don't like traveling anymore, Jack replied. I turned. I didn't say I'd stopped living. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. I used to count the little cracks up there when Walter snored too loud. Now, I counted decisions I had let slide. The day I gave Jack access to my utility account. The time I let Lorna organize my pills. The time I didn't ask why my mail started arriving already opened. Little cuts. Now they were bleeding. Morning brought more of the same. Lorna made porridge. Too much cinnamon. She hummed as she placed it in front of me, then watched until I took a bite. "You're so good, Marilyn," she said. "So cooperative. As if I were a patient or a child." I chewed slowly. Thought about what June had said last night after I told her about the coat. "I'll look into it," she whispered. "But be careful. If they're setting something up, you don't want to give them any fuel." "What kind of fuel?" "Anything they can twist. They only need a few sentences, Gran. One erratic moment." I looked at the woman across the table, stirring her tea with robotic precision. "You're watching me," I said. She blinked. "Excuse me?" I said, "You're watching me." "Not because you care, because you want me to crack." She smiled. "You should eat before it gets cold." I did. Then I smiled back. If they wanted a breakdown, they'd have to wait. I was just getting started. The appointment was for 10:30 a.m. Jack drove me, humming along to the radio like we were headed to brunch. Lorna stayed behind to tidy up, her words. I didn't ask what she planned to tidy in a house that wasn't hers. "You'll like Dr. Mencken," Jack said as we pulled into the lot. "Very respected. He does these intake assessments all the time, totally routine." The building looked like a dentist's office, but the door was locked from the inside. Jack rang the bell. A young man in scrubs opened it. "We've got a new client," Jack said. Client. Dr. Mencken was a small man with a polished forehead and too many degrees on the wall. He offered me tea and asked if I knew what year it was. I smiled. "It's the year my son lost his conscience." Jack didn't laugh. The session lasted 28 minutes. He asked about my sleep, my memory, if I ever felt disoriented or confused in familiar places. I answered calmly, clearly. Then he pulled out a form. "This is just to confirm that today's assessment was voluntary." I reached for it, read every word. Then I pushed it back. "Why would I sign something that protects you from liability if I decide to contest your notes?" Dr. Mencken's smile faltered. "I assure you, Mrs. Jacobs, this is purely procedural." "I'm sure it is." Jack shifted in his chair. "Ma, don't make this difficult." I stood. Difficult would be me calling the local news and describing this little trap in full detail. Dr. Mencken glanced at Jack, then back at me. "Perhaps we can reschedule." "No need," I said. "I've seen enough." In the car, Jack was silent. Not angry, not yet. Just calculating. I'd surprised him. He didn't like that. Back home, the air felt different. My books were rearranged. The vase by the window was gone. In its place sat a thick binder labeled Care Planning. Lorna met me in the hallway, her face frozen into something between worry and triumph. "How was it?" "Your trap had a draft." I walked right out. That night, June called again, whispering. "Gran, I found something," she said. "Brookview's not just a senior home. It has a locked unit for patients under psychiatric watch." I closed my eyes. "Gran, that's what they signed for, not a retirement tour. It's a psychiatric evaluation with authority to hold if risk indicators are confirmed." So that's what Jack and Lorna meant by help. They wanted me declared unstable, a signature away from losing everything, my house, my name. I opened my planner. A name was still there, penciled in from years ago. Henry Barker. Lawyer. Old friend. Trusted. I called. "Hank? It's Marilyn. I think I might need a favor. The kind that requires a suit and your old steel voice?" He was silent for a beat. Then, "Where and when?" "Tomorrow," I said, because tonight I needed to sleep with one eye open. The next morning, I dressed with precision. Navy slacks, pale blue blouse, low-heeled shoes. Not elegant, not matronly, just solid. The kind of outfit that says, "I'm still here." June picked me up at 9 sharp. She wore her campus hoodie, hair in a rush of curls, eyes sharp behind her glasses. She didn't hug me. She looked me over, nodded. We were past tenderness now. We were allies. Henry Barker hadn't changed much in 20 years. Still wiry. Still with that slight lean forward, like he was always mid-cross-examination. He greeted me at the door of his office with a firmness that reminded me why I once trusted him with my mortgage, my will, and once, briefly, my grief. "Let's talk about what they tried to make you sign," he said as we sat. I handed him the Brookview file June had pulled together. He scanned, eyes narrowing. "This isn't a residency agreement," he muttered. "It's a conditional psychiatric consent. This clause here, if a physician deems you unfit, they can enact a 72-hour hold, without a court order." "They were going to use Menken's evaluation," I said. But I wouldn't sign. Henry exhaled. "Smart. They've taken keys, searched my files, rearranged the house. And your accounts? I think they haven't touched them yet, but they're circling." Henry leaned back. "We'll lock it down." He drew up a revocation of all powers of attorney. Jack had one from years ago, unused till now. We drafted a statement voiding all authorizations, notarized it on the spot. Then June and I drove straight to the bank. It's funny how quickly people take you seriously when you have a lawyer's letterhead in your purse. My account manager, a pleasant woman named Trish, looked visibly alarmed when she read the documents. "Mrs. Jacobs, I wasn't aware your son had any active instructions, but we'll freeze everything pending confirmation." "Good," I said. "And I'd like to open a new trust account in June's name. I'll manage it, she'll inherit it. Everything goes there." Trish blinked. "All of it?" "All of it." We left the bank with new paperwork, new passwords, and a sense that something was shifting. Not just the money, the dynamic, the silence that had hung over our family like fog for years. It was lifting. As we pulled into my driveway, June turned off the ignition. "I don't get it," she said quietly. "How could they think you wouldn't notice? That you'd just go?" I looked at her, my granddaughter, whose face still held traces of the toddler I once bathed in my kitchen sink. "They weren't counting on me being afraid," I said. "They were counting on me being tired." June was silent. I opened the door, stepped onto my porch, and turned the key in the lock. Mine. Again. Let them come now. The door would not open for them the way it used to. They came the next day. Together. Without warning. Jack walked in like he'd forgotten the locks had changed. Lorna followed behind, clutching her purse like it held the truth. Neither looked surprised to see June sitting at my table with a legal pad and my old check register. "We need to talk," Jack said. "I'm listening," I said, not moving. He sat. She didn't. "What happened at the bank?" he asked. "I moved my money," I replied. "To who?" Lorna's voice was thin, stretched. "Not to you." Jack rubbed his hands together. "Ma, let's not turn this into a war." I raised an eyebrow. I didn't start one. "Brookview was supposed to be a soft transition," he said. "A safe space. With your memory, we thought—" "My memory is fine," I interrupted. What worries me is yours. Specifically, the part where you forgot I'm not dead yet. Jack sighed heavily, turning to June. And you. What is this? You don't think helping her hide money is going to blow back on you? She's not hiding anything, June said calmly. She's protecting herself. From you. Lorna stepped forward. You have no idea what it's like taking care of someone in decline. I looked at her. I do. I buried my mother in this house. I fed her when she couldn't hold a spoon. I wiped her face after strokes. I never once tried to have her committed. Silence. Jack leaned forward, lowering his voice. You're paranoid, Ma. That's exactly what we're worried about. You should be worried, I said, meeting his eyes. But not about my mind. I pulled out the file Henry helped me assemble. The revocation notice. The notarized letters. The bank's acknowledgement of trust transfer. I slid them across the table. You don't have access to my finances. You don't have legal right to make medical decisions. And if either of you steps foot in this house again without my consent, I will involve the police. Lorna scoffed. You'd have your own son arrested? I stood. I'd have a stranger arrested. That's what you are now. Jack looked stunned, not broken, just paused, like he'd never truly imagined this version of me. You're going to regret this, he said quietly. No, I said. You are. They left without another word. June sat very still. Did I go too far? I asked. No, she said. Not far enough. But we'll get there. That night I made a list. Things they'd taken, my time, my trust, my quiet. Things they'd never touch again. My name, my choices, my house. The next morning, I called Henry again. Ready for the second part? I asked. You mean the will? He replied. Yes. And I want to add something else. What's that? A letter, not to them, to me. Because this wasn't just about protection anymore. This was about reclaiming the pieces I'd let fall and making sure they never slipped again. I woke up before sunrise, as I always had. Old habits, built from years of early shifts and long commutes, don't fade just because no one's waiting at the breakfast table. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No creaking floorboards, no soft hum of the fridge. For a moment I wondered if they'd cut the power. Paranoia? Maybe. Or maybe instinct. I checked the hallway. Nothing out of place. But when I reached the back door, I found the chain latch engaged from the outside. I stood there, hand on the knob, pulse rising. They hadn't left. They'd come back. Quietly. In the night. I went room to room, drawer by drawer. The envelope with my prescription receipts was gone. My planner, again, missing. Even the batteries from the TV remote had been taken. Small things. Like someone was chipping away at the edges of my life, hoping I'd crumble without a scene. At 7:03 a.m., June texted, Gran, everything okay? I had a weird feeling. I called her. They were here, at night. Door was chained. Jesus, are you sure? I walked to the window and pulled the curtain slightly. Across the street, a car I didn't recognize idled near the curb. Engine running, lights off. You tell me. I'll be there in 20, she said, already moving. By the time she arrived, the car was gone. But the air in the house still felt off, like someone had rearranged it while I slept. We checked the garage. My second set of keys, the ones I kept duct-taped under a loose brick, were gone. So was the folder marked Insurance Secondary. Not the primary one, not anything obviously valuable, just enough to make me question my own memory. A campaign of erosion. They're trying to set the stage, June muttered. make you seem unstable, disoriented. And then call Mencken again, I said. Have him document it. She looked at me. It's psychological warfare, Gran. I nodded. Then we'll answer in kind. We spent the next hour installing a simple camera by the front porch and another by the back. June had them tucked in her bag, like she'd anticipated this. We set up cloud backups, alerts to her phone, and I wrote everything down. Every drawer, every document, every odd silence in the house. My memory wasn't just intact. It was becoming my weapon. At noon, I got a call. Blocked number. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Mrs. Jacobs? A man's voice asked. Yes. This is Paul from Brookview's intake team. We were told you might be joining us this week. Just checking if you had any questions before Friday. I sat down slowly. Who told you that? There was a pause. I'm not sure. Your file came through administrative prep. Everything looks good. Insurance, documentation, physician's referral. I have not agreed to anything. Oh, he said, voice tightening. That's not what we have noted. I hung up. They've submitted my intake, I said aloud. June looked up from her laptop. What? They're not planning anything. They already did it. She sat back, stunned. I stood and walked to the fireplace mantel. The photo of Jack at his college graduation stared back at me. His eyes were softer then. He used to call me his best friend. That boy had vanished, and someone cold had taken his place. That night, I locked every door with new bolts. June stayed on the couch. I didn't ask. She didn't offer. It was understood. This was war, and I wasn't sleeping alone on the front line. Around 2 a.m., the motion alert chimed. Front porch, movement detected. June and I both snapped upright. I opened the app. There they were. Jack, standing just outside the frame. Lorna behind him, holding something. A folder, maybe. They didn't ring the bell. They just stood there, waiting, watching. After a minute, they turned and walked away. June exhaled. They're still trying to spook you. No, I said, closing the app. They're waiting for me to break. But I wasn't going to break. Not now, not ever. I met Henry in the park. Not his office. The park. That was his idea. Neutral ground, no walls, no signatures. If they're watching you, Marilyn, they're not watching me. Yet. He sat on a bench beneath an old sycamore, a folder on his lap, a pen already clicking in his hand. The man hadn't aged well. His back was slightly hunched now, and his eyes had that weary softness that comes from too many years listening to bad people justify worse things. But when he saw me, he stood. You look steadier than you did last week. That's because I'm done being nice. He nodded. Good. Let's get to it. He laid out the timeline as we knew it. The false paperwork. The unsanctioned referral to Brookview. The tampering at the house. The psychological evaluation I refused to sign. The hidden cameras. Now capturing nightly trespasses. They'll deny it all, Henry said. Say it was concern. Say you misunderstood. I didn't. I know. But courts don't deal in feelings. They deal in paper. I handed him mine. Everything June and I had documented, down to the photos of moved objects and footage of Jack on the porch at 2 a.m. Henry skimmed, lips tightening. This is stronger than I thought. Strong enough to stop them? Strong enough to embarrass them if it goes public, which is often more useful. I looked around the park. Kids on scooters, a man walking 2 fat dogs, a young couple on a blanket, fingers tangled. I'd brought Jack here when he was 6, with his red kite and a peanut butter sandwich he refused to eat because I'd forgotten to cut the crust. That boy was long gone. "Marilyn," Henry said, softer now. "Do you want to take this to court?" "I want them out of my life. Their hands off my name, my money, my rights. I want my doorbell to mean a neighbor with cookies, not an ambush." He nodded. "Then here's what we do. We start by filing a cease and desist for harassment and unlawful entry. We deliver it in person, through my office. Let them know we're watching now. Next, we petition the local board to investigate Brookview's intake procedure. If your name is still in their system, we request removal under duress and falsified consent." "And Jack?" "We wait. He'll make a mistake. People like him always do. You just make sure the cameras are charged." We sat for a moment longer, not speaking. Then I said, "Henry, why did you take this on? You're retired. You don't owe me anything." He looked at me. "You taught my daughter how to read, remember? Back when she stuttered so bad she couldn't get through a sentence without crying. You made her stay after class. Every day. You made her believe she could speak." He smiled. "She's a radio journalist now, runs her own show." My throat tightened. "You saved her voice, Marilyn. Now we save yours." I walked home through the long streets of my neighborhood. Trees I'd watched grow old. Houses that had watched me do the same. When I reached my front gate, I turned the key in my hand. This house had never asked anything from me, only to be kept, lived in, remembered. And I would keep it. Until the very end. June brought croissants that morning. "You need real food," she said, shoving the greasy bag into my hands. "Warriors don't run on tea and air." We sat at the table in silence, the sunlight barely brushing the rim of the window. I hadn't slept much. Every creak in the house had me wide-eyed, but there was no new footage, no new trespassing. "They're regrouping," June said, "licking their wounds. Or planning something worse." She didn't argue, just reached into her backpack and pulled out 2 thick envelopes. "These came this morning. Certified mail. One from Brookview, one from Jack." I opened Brookview's first. A thin, clinical letter. "We regret to inform you that your reserved residency slot has been released due to incomplete authorization documentation. No charges incurred." They'd backed off, quietly. Jack's envelope was messier. 2 pages, typed. Formal tone. "Mom," he no longer called me Ma, "we're concerned about your recent behavior. Refusing medical guidance, making financial decisions under apparent duress, alienating family. June has been emotionally unstable for years." I stopped reading. "Guess I'm the unstable one now," June muttered, reading over my shoulder. "Charming." I placed the letter down, carefully, as if it might explode. They're not talking to me anymore. They're building a record, for someone else to read. "Courts?" I nodded. "Maybe even APS. Adult Protective Services." June leaned forward. "Gran, we need to go public." "Meaning?" "Meaning we go on the offense. No more waiting. You file the cease and desist Henry drafted. I send the Brookview intake letter to the local ombudsman, and we file an internal complaint against Dr. Mencken. His evaluation was never authorized, but it's already in your file." I checked. I stared at her. "You hacked Brookview?" I Googled the unsecured internal intake portal. Not my fault if their IT guy is lazy. I laughed. My first in days. "You would have made a good lawyer." "No thanks," she said. "I like my soul." By noon, the cease and desist was notarized and hand-delivered to Jack's office. Henry arranged it. "No ambiguity," he said. They'll know we mean business. An hour later, Lorna called. I didn't answer. She left a message. We're just trying to protect you, Marilyn. You may not see it now, but we've done everything out of love. You're making this ugly. Let's not let this go to lawyers. Let's remember we're a family. I deleted it. At 4, the doorbell rang. Not Jack, not Lorna. It was Margaret, my neighbor. 71, twice divorced, sharp as a blade. She held a lemon pie and wore the look of someone who knew everything, but waited for you to admit it first. I heard things are complicated, she said as I let her in. Complicated's a polite word. She sat, uninvited, and cut us both a slice. You know, she said, my niece works for Brookview. Admin, just entry level, but she hears things. She told me they've had a spike in silent intake referrals. Quiet paperwork. Done by relatives, usually for women, usually older. I put my fork down. She said it's growing. The system favors the relatives. Fewer questions. Easier billing. Easy to make a woman look confused if you take enough from her. I felt the pie turn heavy in my mouth. Don't let them push you out, Marilyn, she said. You built a life. You're still in it. I nodded. I won't. That night, I wrote my own letter. Not to Jack, not to Brookview, to myself. A record, a voice. I remember who I am. I remember the street I was born on, the taste of my mother's jam, the name of every student who ever cried in my classroom. I am not confused. I am not fragile. I am not done. I folded the page and placed it in my safe. Then I turned off the porch light and locked the door. It was my door. Still. By Friday, the letter from Adult Protective Services arrived. Not a visit. Not a call. A letter. We have received a referral expressing concern about your cognitive and emotional well-being. We are required by law to conduct an in-person assessment within 10 business days. Please contact us to arrange a suitable time. No signature, no name, just APS Intake Coordinator. I sat at the table holding that letter like it was an X-ray showing a fracture, not visible from the outside, but deep and splintered underneath. I'd taught students who wrote better than this. The passive voice was the clue. It's always the clue. We have received from Jack or Lorna, no doubt. Likely both. I called Henry. They're accelerating, he said. Brookview didn't work, so now it's government. Can I refuse the visit? You can, but it could backfire. If you look evasive, they may escalate it to a formal court evaluation. And if I let them in? You let them see you, on your ground, with your people. I turned toward the hallway where June was half asleep on the couch, wrapped in her oversized cardigan, textbooks open beside her. My people. I called the number, scheduled the visit. Tuesday, 11 a.m. I wasn't afraid. I was furious. We spent the weekend preparing, not hiding things, not adjusting for show, just organizing, reclaiming. I cleaned the pantry. June replaced the batteries in the smoke alarms. We made a folder with my full medical records, bank statements, notarized legal documents. We printed photos. June even pulled up a video of me teaching. A grainy clip from some school reunion where I stood at a chalkboard laughing. She needs to see the full you, she said, not the version they painted. On Monday night, Margaret came by again. They'll look for confusion, she warned. So give them clarity. Not answers, clarity. Show them what matters to you. I slept in my own bed that night, sheets crisp, windows open. For the first time in weeks, the wind sounded like something other than a warning. Tuesday morning came bright and sharp. The APS worker arrived on time. A woman in her early 40s, thin face, blue blazer, clipboard held like a shield. Her name was Nora. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," she said, polite but watchful. "Thank you for coming." She looked around as she entered, not nosy, just scanning. June sat nearby, notebook open. Nora glanced at her. I'm Marilyn's granddaughter. I live here part-time. Do you have legal authority?" "She's here as my guest," I interrupted. "She's not speaking for me." Nora nodded. "Then let's begin." She asked about my routine, my memory, my medications, whether I had trouble managing finances, whether I knew today's date, the name of the current president, where I kept my birth certificate. "I could show you the drawer," I said. "But I think you'd rather I say it." She smiled faintly. "If you like," I told her. We walked through the house. I showed her my calendar with appointments neatly penciled in, my checkbook balanced to the cent, my garden journal. I still logged rainfall, even if I rarely planted now. She paused at the photos. "You were a teacher?" 33 years, English and civics." She looked at the wall of faces, students, colleagues, Walter with his mustache, Jack as a boy with 2 missing teeth. "You're close with your son?" "We were." "And now?" "He filed paperwork to commit me, without cause, without consent." Nora's face didn't change, but her posture did. "I see." I handed her the documents, Henry's letters, the notarized revocations, the Brookview letter, even Jack's typed concern. She read in silence. When she finished, she looked up. "You're more prepared than most." I had to be. She packed her folder. "I'll file my report by Thursday. I don't expect any follow-up." I nodded. "Thank you." As she stepped onto the porch, she turned back. "For what it's worth, I've seen a lot of situations like this. Not all of them end with someone still standing in their own home." I smiled. "I'm not done standing." She left. June exhaled beside me. "Well?" I looked around. "I think we just won a round." And I hadn't raised my voice once. Jack showed up 2 days later. Alone. No warning, no smile, no car idling at the curb. Just a knock. 3 sharp raps like he was still entitled to this door. I opened it halfway. "You came without your guard dog," I said. He sighed. "Can we talk?" "That depends. Are you here as my son or as someone preparing legal strategy?" "I'm here because I don't recognize what's happening to us." I let the door swing open. "Come in, but leave the performance outside." He stepped in like a stranger, his eyes moving across the room like he was expecting something different. Maybe he thought I'd be frailer. Maybe he wanted me to be. June wasn't home? I had asked her to take the afternoon for herself. I needed this one-on-one. He sat at the table, hands folded in front of him. Neatly. Calculated. Still my son in face, in voice, but not in presence. "You called APS," I said flatly. "I was worried. You filed a psychiatric referral under my name. You lied about consent. You submitted financial documentation that didn't belong to you. That's not worry. That's erasure." Jack looked down, then up. "You were slipping, forgetting things." "No." "I stopped telling you things." He winced. "I didn't want pickleball and group crafts. I wanted quiet. I wanted the right to eat soup at 2 a.m. in my own kitchen without being checked on like a patient. You think I wanted to lock you up? I think you wanted me compliant. Soft. Out of the way." Silence. He shifted. "Lorna thought, don't bring her into it. This isn't about her. It never was." He looked older than I remembered. heaviness around the eyes, the kind that comes from things you thought would be easy turning hard. "I thought I was helping," he said. "It started small, reminders, bills, errands. Then one day I realized you didn't need me, not in the way I needed you to." I sat across from him. "You needed me silent." "No, I needed you, softer, less sharp. I didn't want to fight." "Then why did you declare war?" He leaned back, defeated. "I was angry," he said quietly, "that you gave June the trust, that you shut me out. You never asked why." I didn't want to hear the answer. I nodded. "And now?" "Now I'm trying. Too late, maybe, but I'm here." We sat like that, two people across years of misunderstanding. I looked at his hands, broad palms, still calloused at the base from years of woodworking. Hands that once lifted me when I fell in the driveway. Hands that signed paperwork behind my back. "You broke something, Jack," I said softly. "Not just trust. Dignity. Mine. Yours." He swallowed. "Do you hate me?" he asked. "No," I said. "I grieve you. That's worse." We didn't speak for a while. Then he stood. "I'll go." I didn't stop him. At the door, he turned. "Is there any way back?" I looked at him. Really looked. For the first time in months. "I don't know," I said. "But it doesn't start with questions." He left. That night, I pulled out the photo album again. Not to reminisce. To remind myself that love doesn't erase damage. It doesn't undo it. But it can sit beside it, quietly, if you let it. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I would. The psychiatrist arrived in a beige raincoat and canvas shoes. Her name was Dr. Elaine Porter, a quiet woman in her 50s, with the kind of face that had seen too many aging women folded into silence. She wasn't from Brookview. She wasn't from Jack's list. She was mine, Henry's referral, independent, unaffiliated, real. We sat in the sunroom. I poured tea without shaking. No makeup, no pearls, just me, with my memory and my voice intact. "I appreciate you coming," I said. "I appreciate being asked," she replied. "Most people only see me when it's too late." She didn't take out a clipboard. She didn't record anything. She just asked questions, then listened. "Tell me about this year," she said. "I turned 78. My son tried to declare me incompetent. My daughter-in-law made a binder labeled Transition Plan. My granddaughter saved my life." "Did you expect that?" "From Jack? No. From June? Always." "And what would you say changed in you?" "I stopped being afraid of their comfort." She paused, nodding slowly. "That's not how most people answer that question." "I'm not most people." She smiled. "I can see that." We talked for nearly an hour. She asked about my career, my marriage, my habits. She asked me to repeat a list of 5 words, then recite them backward. "Do you know why I'm here, Marilyn?" she asked toward the end. "To tell the world I'm sane." "No," she said. "To tell you." She stood, brushing imaginary dust from her skirt. "You're not just competent," she said. "You're clear, precise, intact, and angry, but righteously so." I walked her to the door. "Will there be a report?" "Yes. I'll file it with the notary and send a copy to Mr. Barker. It'll be admissible in court should it come to that." "Will it?" She looked at me, thoughtful. "That depends on how much they need to win." The door closed behind her. I stood there for a moment, listening to the house. It sounded quiet, but not empty. When June came home later that evening, I handed her the preliminary report. She read it quickly, then held it to her chest. "It's over," she whispered. "Not yet," I said, "but it's turning." We sat on the porch that night, me in Walter's old chair, June curled on the swing. The moon hung low over the rooftops. Somewhere a dog barked, not in warning, but in recognition. "I was scared," she said softly. "So was I. I thought they'd win. They almost did." She turned to look at me. "What changed?" "I did." And for once, that answer felt like enough. I found Walter's letter in the attic. It was in a box I hadn't opened since the spring after he died. The year I still believed grief had a schedule. June and I were looking for an old file I'd mislaid, and she was halfway down the ladder when I said, "Wait, that box." Inside were postcards from trips we never took, receipts from our first car. His watch still ticking faintly like time had nowhere else to go. And under it all, a single envelope in his handwriting. "For when you forget." I didn't remember ever seeing it. I sat on the floor while June kept searching. "Marilyn," it began. "If you're reading this, I'm probably not sitting across from you sipping terrible instant coffee and watching the birds fight over our fence, which means I need to say this now while I still have the chance. Don't let them shrink you. Not your age. Not grief. Not the long, silent pressure of other people's decisions. You've always made your life bigger, not louder, not showier, but wider, richer. You made mine that way too. If they try to tell you you're too forgetful, remind them you remembered how to raise a boy alone. If they say you're fragile, remind them what it took to keep this house, to keep your dignity, to keep breathing after I left. You are not soft. You are not weak. You are not done. And when they try to decide for you, your home, your money, your mind, say no. Say it with tea still steeping. Say it with your cardigan on crooked. Say it while you bake too much for guests who never show up. Say it even if your hands shake. But say it, because you've earned the right to your own voice. I love you. Always will. W. The paper trembled, but my hands didn't. June watched me read it. She didn't speak until I folded it. "Gran?" "I forgot he wrote like that," I said quietly. "Direct, just enough salt." She nodded. "You okay?" "I think I just remembered who I married." I placed the letter in the drawer beside my bed. Not hidden, not displayed, just close. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from fear, from clarity. I walked through the house, not to check locks, not to scan for shadows, just to feel it. The floor still creaked in the hallway near the bathroom. The front door still stuck in the corner when it rained. The second stair still moaned when you stepped just right. These weren't flaws. They were reminders. I opened the cupboard where I kept the mixing bowls. One still dusted faintly with flour from the last time Reed visited. I thought about baking, about calling Margaret, about nothing at all. Then I picked up my notebook and began to write. Not legal notes, not timelines. Just truth. I used to think dignity was something others granted. That if I behaved well enough, deferred kindly enough, I'd be allowed to keep it. But I've learned, dignity isn't given. It's claimed. One no at a time. One locked door. One name remembered. One line redrawn, then enforced. I am not going anywhere. This is my home. This is my story. The pen didn't slip once. And neither would I again. The lawyer's office was warmer than I remembered. Or maybe I just felt different walking into it. Not like a client in crisis, but like a woman who had already made her decision. Francine Layton had taken over Henry's practice after his retirement. A younger woman, sharp-eyed, deliberate, respectful in the way only someone who'd read the whole file could be. "Mrs. Jacobs," she greeted me, rising. "I reviewed the documents you sent last week. The trust has been properly transferred. June's role is secure. I nodded. That's good. She waited. I want to make changes to my will, I said. She didn't blink, just pulled up a new file on her screen. Go on? Jack is to be removed entirely. Understood. June receives the house, the remaining funds, and anything else that hasn't already been secured. Francine tapped gently on the keyboard. And I'd like to attach a letter. Not for court, not for drama. Just to explain it. A legacy letter? No, I said. Not legacy. Truth. She looked at me for a moment, her pen hovering. Would you like to dictate it now? I shook my head. I'll write it myself. I know the tone. She smiled. Of that, I have no doubt. After the paperwork was signed, I walked 3 blocks to the post office and sent a certified letter to Jack. Not cruel, not accusatory, just final. You are no longer named in my will. This is not a punishment. This is a boundary. Love is not entitlement, and silence is not consent. I didn't expect a reply. I didn't need one. That evening, I told June. She didn't celebrate, didn't cry. Just took my hand and said, "Thank you." For what? For trusting me with the parts they didn't want. We made soup and sat on the porch with bowls in our laps. Margaret wandered over, uninvited as usual. "Smells like actual nourishment," she said, sitting without asking. I handed her a bowl. "You always show up when things settle." "No," she said. "I show up when you stop hiding." June laughed. She's got a sixth sense for that. I looked out across the yard. The hydrangeas were blooming again, pale and unapologetic. I hadn't tended them in years, but they came back anyway. "Think Jack will contest the will?" Margaret asked. I shrugged. "He can try. He won't get far." "You think he regrets it?" June asked. "I think he regrets getting caught." We didn't say anything after that, just sat with the night, with full bowls and fewer ghosts. Later, as I washed the dishes, I glanced at the counter, at the folder now bearing my signature and June's. Clean, organized, final. And I realized something. This wasn't revenge. It was inheritance. Not of money, of voice, of self, of peace. Hard won. I dried my hands, turned off the light, and felt, for the first time in years, like no one else had the final word on who I was. The house felt different now. Not newer. God knows nothing here is new. But freer. As if the walls had been holding their breath and were finally allowed to exhale. Even the air had shifted. I could feel it when I opened the front windows that morning. Light came in without hesitation. Margaret said it first. "You walk differently," she noted, sipping her over-sugared tea on my porch. "Less like you're waiting for something. More like you've already decided." I think I have. Decided what? I didn't say. I didn't need to. It was in the way I dusted my shelves without expecting to be interrupted, in the way I refilled the sugar jar like someone who would still be around to use it. That afternoon, the doorbell rang. Not Jack, not Lorna, not anyone in a suit. It was Eloise from down the street, 32, mother of 2, always rushing. She stood there with a paper bag and a shy smile. "I heard you used to be a teacher," she said. "My son struggles with reading. I was wondering—" I didn't let her finish. "Come in. Let's see where he's at." He came by that evening. A nervous little thing with mismatched socks and a tight grip on his book. We read for an hour. Slowly. Carefully. He left smiling, his fingers no longer clenched on the page. The next day, another child. Then 2. June cleared the side room and brought in extra chairs from the shed. "You're a one-woman tutoring service now," she said, laughing. "I always was," I said. I just stopped charging. We made flyers. Nothing fancy. Reading circles with Mrs. Jacobs, Mondays and Thursdays, 4-6 p.m. June handed them out at the coffee shop, the community board, even stuck one under the library door. And they came. Parents I hadn't spoken to in years. Kids who remembered me as the old lady with the slow dog. Some just came to sit, to listen, to be near a place that didn't ask them to buy anything or prove anything. The house filled again. With voices, with breath, with purpose. It wasn't noisy. I still needed my quiet. But it was alive. At night, I'd sit by the window, tea in hand, and listen. To June typing on her laptop. To a neighborhood I had feared I'd vanish from. To the soft rhythm of a life that no longer asked permission. Jack hadn't called in over a week. Lorna never did. I knew that would change. Silence never lasted forever. But I was no longer checking the window for their car. I was no longer flinching at the sound of tires. If they returned, they'd find a door closed not out of fear, but certainty. June came into the kitchen one evening, holding a letter. From the bank, she said. Updated statement for the trust. I nodded, stirring soup. She set it on the table. It's more than I thought. I know. What do you want to do with it? I looked at her. I want you to decide. She frowned. Gran, you earned it, not because you stood by me, because you stood with me. That's different. She didn't answer, just stepped forward and hugged me. Not quickly, not in passing, but long, quiet, full. You saved me, she said. No, I said. You reminded me I didn't need saving, just remembering. That night, I added a new page to my notebook. Sometimes survival looks like locking your door. Sometimes it looks like opening it. The trick is knowing when to do each. And never apologizing for either. This house isn't what they left behind. It's what I rebuilt after. And I still had the key. Jack's letter came on a Thursday. No courier, no signature required. Just a plain white envelope with my name in that tight, precise handwriting he'd inherited from Walter. June found it on the porch and brought it in without comment. She placed it on the table beside my tea, then went to water the tomatoes. She didn't ask if I'd open it. Didn't have to. I let it sit there all day. By sunset, the envelope looked smaller. Or maybe I had grown. Either way, I finally slid it open. Mom, I don't know where to begin, so I'll begin with this. I was wrong. I was wrong to think I knew better. Wrong to act like protecting you meant controlling you. I convinced myself I was doing the right thing, even when every step took something from you. I see that now. Too late, maybe. But clearly, I didn't understand what it meant for a person to grow old on their own terms. I thought autonomy was something you handed over, like a set of keys. I forgot where I came from, who you were, who you still are. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I hear you now. Finally. Jack. I folded the letter, placed it in the drawer with Walter's, and stood there a moment. It didn't fix anything, but it didn't undo anything either. Forgiveness is a door without a handle on the outside. Sometimes you open it. Sometimes you don't. I left it closed. Not out of spite, but because I wasn't finished being alone in this house. Not lonely. Just alone. With my books. With my tea. With the sound of children reading from the living room twice a week. That evening, I baked a lemon cake. No occasion. No guests. Just a warm kitchen and my favorite chipped bowl. June walked in. sniffed the air. You're not waiting for anyone? No, I said. I'm just letting the house know I'm still here. She smiled, grabbed a plate. We sat on the porch while the sky turned gold. So what happens now? She asked. Now? I looked at her, then at the fence Walter built, the mailbox Jack painted when he was 12, the hydrangeas blooming out of schedule. Now we live. And we did. Not perfectly, not quietly, but wholly. People ask me sometimes, at the post office, at the library when they drop off their grandkids, how I managed it. How I kept the house, how I kept my name. And I tell them the truth. I didn't win because I fought hard. I won because I remembered who I was before they told me what I wasn't. So if you're reading this, and you've been made to feel like your story ended while you were still in it, let this be your reminder. You are not done. And if this story moved something in you, share it. Save it. Pass it to someone who needs to hear their voice again. Let them know. We're still here. Still in our homes. Still in our names. Still choosing. Don't go quiet. Not yet. Leave a comment. Tell your story. Let them hear you.